This week, our Torah portion, or Parasha, is from Leviticus 1:1 through Leviticus 5:26. It is called Vayikra in Hebrew, which means "and he called." Vayikra is the first parasha in the book of Leviticus, which is the third book of the Torah. This parasha gives us a deep dive into all things sacrifices and offerings. If a lot of the Torah seems like it's a bunch of blood, guts, and organs, well, you're right. So put on your plastic ponchos because we're in the splash zone. There were 5 different types of offerings that God instructed the Israelites to give in Leviticus: the burnt offering, the grain offering, the peace offering, the sin offering, and the guilt offering. Each one of these offerings had a specific purpose and symbolism, and there were many precise directions and guidelines as how to give each offering. For this one, use these animals, but that one only used those animals. The fire burns all of this offering. Oh, but that one only some of it. This type, only male animals, but that type, female animals. And don't forget the bread one. But remember, no yeast allowed. It might be starting to get confusing at this point. And well, it is. But it boils down, pun intended, to one thing. God is holy. We are not, unless He makes us holy. These offerings were a way to deal with our shortcomings and separation from God so that He could dwell among us. They were a way to reconcile us back to God. See, later on in Leviticus, we read that the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it for you on the altar to make atonement for your souls. Just like Adam and Eve in the garden, sin separates us from God and eventually leads to our death. But God, being altogether good, made a way where instead of our shortcomings costing us our life, the life of an animal would be given up in our place. Sacrifice can be defined as something of value being given up for something regarding as more important or worthy. The animal's blood given up for us. The thought of sacrifices might make us feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's messy, hard, and maybe a bit odd for our 21st century Western minds. But the reality is that sacrifices come at a great cost, which points to the great sacrificial love of our God. Our ancestors' sacrificial system was a foreshadow as to why the Messiah had to come. Sacrifices were temporary, but the Messiah would become the permanent eternal atonement, and He would cover all the Levitical sacrifices, covering our sins and removing our guilt, bringing us peace with God and restoring our relationship and fellowship with Him. So yes, sacrifices are difficult and costly to offer, but remember that God loved us so much that He looked down upon us, the creation of His heart and hands, and decided that we were worth it all.